you can see where we are in the process at the moment. People like to take the present for granted and be like, oh yeah, things are just the way they are, whatever, everything's normal. When it's better to kind of view our present time as a stage in a process, and try to extrapolate as best you can where that process is going in the future, why we are where we are at the moment, the darker aspects of where we are, along with the positive ones too. But you have to look at the dark aspects, otherwise you're not going to get anywhere. And that's the way I like to view things is, everything's part of a process, and people get all heated about these political issues they throw out for you to get all excited and emotional about. But, what's beyond all those issues, and where are we in this process, and what might those like little political issues for, that'll people talk about for a week and then it's the next thing, like what do they represent in terms of like this greater social process that's going on all around us?
Oh yeah, and whenever I talk to my friends and I mention sort of transhumanism or anything like that, so many of them are like, "Oh, but that's awesome! That's like so cool! I think this is great." And which, of course, then I tell them to go see your film, and I think you might have a different view of that. But it is funny how people are really, they only see these positive things. Or the other day I was watching something, I don't even know why, on Nova on PBS. Technology show, and it was mostly about AI and robotics, and almost every single scientist that they met was funded by DARPA or the Pentagon, and it's like, yeah, it's really cool that they've got this freaky looking robot that can walk on ice and it'll never fall down, but the end goal of that is just to make it easier to murder other people.
Well, that's the thing, the DARPA projects and how they relate to the transhuman concepts. You got transhumanists out there promoting their ideas, nanotechnology, AI, life extension, robotics, all this and the other. And they're doing it in a way that's totally detached from the military industrial reality of things. They don't even talk about that whole aspect of things, when in reality, that is the main source of funding for these projects in real life. It's almost nearly, I don't know what for percentages it would be, but it's high, over 50% military. There's other government agencies like CDC and things like this that are into AI and, AI programs to go through huge amounts of data on genetic data. That there are lots of projects like that. So big military and governmental money going into this, and then you've got just this superficial thing like, oh yeah, it's cool technologies that somebody's going to make in their basement, like Steve Jobs and Wozniak, and it'll just be brought out to you. Again, they're tacking on this like American dream commercial false idea that's been put into everybody's mind through years of propaganda. And they're like, oh yeah, we live in America, and everything that we get is just made by an entrepreneur, and that's where these technologies will come from. And it's just like,
and there's no sinister, nefarious purpose for any of this, and we'll all be fine, and we'll have a new iPod, and iPhone, and But I know, but when you do start just breaking it down, I mean, it's all, all of these. I find it really, really sort of scary. All of these colleges, all of the academic work is essentially funded by the Pentagon. All of these, MIT and all of these little, different sort of technology colleges. Stanford's a big one, and it's all for the military, and essentially. You can be pretty sure that if it's being made for the military, it's really intended to make it easier to kill other people. The military doesn't really serve much other purpose other than killing and occupying other people.
Well, the best argument that they have when you bring this up is that, oh, well, all of our technologies eventually get filtered down to the consumer level. And and it's true that a lot of consumer technologies are based on military research. So, okay.
The internet itself, I mean, wasn't that?
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And yeah, right. And many other sort of benign things that we wouldn't even think about.
Yeah, microwave, I think.
Right, yeah, microwave, yeah, all sorts, yeah. And then of course, so you have to wonder. I mean, like, what's the back door into those things? You know, what is and obviously with the internet, we can see that. I mean, it's like a great, it's just the easiest way to track somebody.
Yeah.
Doing what they read, what they buy, what they like to look at.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's almost made for that. When you think about it. People, I think, have a hard time stepping out of their own shoes and putting themselves in a position of somebody else. Like somebody who works at the NSA, somebody who works through DARPA somehow. They're unable to see the point of view of those sorts of people or really understand anything about what's going on in that world. And, understandably so. It's a secret world. We're not really told a whole lot about it. Nothing that we're not supposed to know, that's for sure. So I don't know. It's tough. For sure, people need to, or I would like it if people didn't take technology for granted and, internet, it's just easy. I mean, we all do to an extent, myself included. We all end up taking it for granted at some point. And then it's difficult to remember that it is being used to track you. And it's hard for most people to come to that conclusion for a number of reasons. I understand that, but for me, that's how it is. I've come to realize that, and I'm not living in paranoia now because of that. I'm just realizing that that's the truth.
And you shouldn't let that, because that's ultimately that's what they want.
Yes,
just to think that we're all being watched and robots will come and murder us all. And of course, if you give up that power and that liberty to these big entities, then of course that will happen.
Yeah, well, it's important to remember not to get paranoid. Yeah, because be this as it may, the internet's made to track people, and just take that information and use it to change your behavior slightly. I mean, you don't have to be all obsessive about it. Just do a little thing here and there to throw a little monkey wrench in the system, or like maybe just use internet less or for those purposes, or you don't have to drastically change things, but yeah.
I think just interacting with people more, because ultimately they want to stop that from happening. They want everything to just be some sort of computer technology interface. So I think, just don't go on the internet. Maybe go out and actually talk to someone in person instead. And that's the simplest way that you can sort of fight back against this.
I agree. Yeah, that's great.
Well, now that we've drifted a little bit from computer chess into some other things, maybe we could just sort of sum up just some of these themes that we've been talking about, and perhaps your take on where it's going. And obviously, that's a huge question. So we're not talking about where is this going and what's the end result. But maybe you could just sort of talk a little bit about some of the sort of recent changes that have been going on, and particularly, what's going to be happening in the next few years? What are some sort of real things that we can look to?
In terms of like technological innovation?
I think in terms of, and also maybe perhaps any sort of your view on where the transhumanist movement is going, because this is something I think that takes place somewhat gradually.
Mm-hmm. Well, the transhumanist idea has, in my point of view, has been pretty successful in promoting itself, not in the obvious way that you think that it would, because you've got the World Transhumanist Association, overt transhumanist groups like that promote transhumanism. There it is in quotations, and that's their thing. Really, the best way that the idea has been promoted is through popular culture and through Hollywood movies and things like this. Yeah, video games too. There's a weird relationship between the official transhumanist groups and Hollywood. And sometimes they like to complain a lot about Hollywood and that they portray their ideas badly. But if you really look at it, Hollywood's the best salesperson for these ideas. So I would say that the ideas are working their way into the collective consciousness pretty deeply. And that's where the real work is in my mind, because the technological work has been there's been a lot of it going on without us knowing anything about it. So the actual technological progress is there, and it can be brought up to speed. The real problem is introducing a lot of these technologies, because a lot of them are ready to go. You've got blocks like civil liberties, legal constraints, and that certain technologies are going to impede on that. And there have been workarounds like, oh, well, just give all these technologies to South Korea and we'll test them all out there, because they don't have a problem ethically and they don't have a problem legally with it. So that'll be our test ground for it. So, you get workarounds like that. But really, it's the ideas thing. You have to convince the public that this is a good idea first, because it's a revolutionary idea, first of all, and it's a challenge to the entire human race. Basically, the transhumanists are saying, look, the human being as it isn't good enough. We need to scrap it and make a new post-human creature, and it'll be better. And that's an extreme statement. That they're in a sense, they're saying, like, look, let's just kill off humanity and create something better. That's essentially what they're saying. Now, to me, that's an extreme thing to say. They don't seem to think so. They think it just makes sense. They're like, oh, yeah, well, who wouldn't think this?
Of course.
yeah, it makes perfect sense to me. The real work is in convincing people that that's a good idea, you see? And what if you can do that, if you got people convinced, then you bring out the technology. So the real work is in convincing people, putting ideas out there, breaking people's psychological and intellectual defenses down, first and foremost. Yeah.
Well, Aaron, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a real pleasure talking to you. Before we sign off, please tell everybody where they can go to listen to your show, to see your film, where they could buy your book, which I would encourage everyone to go out and get. I just got a copy of it, and I'm extremely excited to read it and have Aaron back on the show.
Well, my website is ageoftransitions.com. There you'll find all my stuff on that website, ageoftransitions.com. I've got my film, of course, The Age of Transition, same name. The podcast would be Trans Resistor Radio. Hope people will listen to that. You can subscribe to it or just download the episodes from the website. There's Revolve, Man's Scientific Rise to Godhood, which is a book that I wrote, which I am very proud of. And it's available in paperback version. If you buy the paperback, you get a DVD copy of The Age of Transitions for free. I also have Kindle ebook version of it if you've got the ebook reader.
And it's a gorgeous looking book too.
Oh, well, thank you. Yeah,
fantastic.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that was a design that I put together. It's artwork from some old alchemists, so William Blake and Jacob Boehme. I took a couple of their pieces of alchemical artwork. I kind of put them together and put my own colors to it. So with the alchemical artwork, it really well, in the book, I get into the connection between alchemy and transhumanism, which there is a deep connection there. So anybody who's into occult subjects and who wants to understand how, this whole occult side of things and technology merge, I get into it quite a bit in the book.
Oh, absolutely. And I can attest to this. Go to Aaron Franz's website. They're just, all the podcasts are fantastic. There's so much stuff, and so much stuff you've never even thought about before. And Aaron breaks it down in such a great way. Well, Aaron, thank you so much for coming on the show. We'd love to have you back on again sometime soon. And it's been great talking with you.
Definitely. Yeah, I want to come back. And thank you very much, Pierce.
Absolutely. So that was my conversation with Aaron Franz of theageoftransitions.com. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and if you do, then please visit porkinspolicyreview.wordpress.com. There you can find all of my other podcasts as well as articles and commentary written by me. You can follow me through the RSS feed on the left-hand side, or by submitting your email and clicking follow. I'm also on Twitter, @PorkinsPolicy, and also please do subscribe to my YouTube channel, which is Porkins Policy Review.